You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Welcome back to another episode of the Digging In Podcast. I'm your host, Kinch O'Kelly, helping you get those questions answered to and through retirement. Today, I am joined by the most authentic mouth harp player we have at the Rooted Wealth Advisors firm, Mr. Michael Pueschell.
Thank you so much, Kinch. Good to be back on the podcast. I'm probably the best mouth harp player in the house. I know that's a flex. that's a flex, but maybe.
I know. I was gonna go like tambourine, but is it a tambourine player? Is it a tapper? Is it a tambourine drummer? I don't know.
I believe it's called a tambourine annoyance.
Tambourine
annoyance. Yeah, I think that's the right word.
All right, but you can do piano, guitar, mouth harp. Is there a limit to your musical
saxophone?
I mean,
I can play a little flute.
So like when I see the one-man band like around the county fair, like is that you have visions of doing something like that?
Every time I play guitar and kick drum and sing at the same time, I get people refer to me as Bert from Mary Poppins, Dick Van Dyke's character. One of my favorite movies anyway. So, yeah.
I mean, probably the most famous chimney sweep in the world.
I mean, if you think of all the famous chimney sweeps,
right?
He's probably the most famous.
Yeah, probably.
Right. I could go down the list, but...
That's for another time and place. Good to see you today. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you. Good to be here.
Hey, I wanted to pick your brain today about leadership. Since you've joined the firm and helped with the vision casting, right? Helped Zach with what that looks like for the firm and what kind of that structure looks like. I know we've worked with a few different coaches and gotten their thoughts on leadership, but what does that mean and look like to you? You've spent 20 years as a pastor leading people in some way, shape, or form. What does that look like here in a financial services firm?
That's a great question. And when I figure out the answer, no, I'm just kidding.
Tune in next week.
The exciting conclusion. What I really think is that it's the same wherever you go. I think leadership is simply influence. And so it doesn't matter what seat we sit in, we have the opportunity to be leaders. We either are influencing or we are not influencing. And I think probably for a number of years, I don't think I understood that very well until I was probably... I would have to humbly say until I was probably 30-ish. I don't think I understood that. I think I was someone who waited on a title or a position in some way. I thought that's what mattered. And what you found out, of course, over time is that anyone can be a leader of sorts if someone will listen and if you can understand how to make things palatable for people in a way that helps them. And I think that's the other key piece to that. I would say that you cannot you cannot lead unless you serve. And I always say leadership is blue collar work. I say that all the time. Leadership is blue collar work. I remember first sort of getting into an opportunity to lead several people. And I remember being scared to death, just so scared because I didn't know how to do their jobs. Did not know how to do their jobs. How in the world am I going to lead people when I don't know how to do their jobs? And I'll never forget sitting in a meeting with 7, 8 other people, going down the line of things we need to talk through, best I knew. Sometimes as a leader, you stay one day ahead. Sometimes you stay one meeting ahead. That's just the way it goes sometimes. And that doesn't mean that leadership can't be effective. But we probably all do a little bit of building the plane as we fly it. That is just the way that it goes. As you're on a journey toward becoming a better version of whomever you are. So I remember sitting through that very first meeting with that 7 or 8 people and leaving out feeling somewhat defeated and somewhat like a sham, and certainly somewhat like I didn't know what I was doing, primarily because I did not know what I was doing, of course. And, but I remember after a few rounds of that, finally realizing, oh, I don't have to know their jobs. What I do have to do is do everything I can to make it better and easier for them to do their jobs well. I remember just realizing that. I remember realizing, boy, this leadership thing is not what it's cracked up to be. It's blue collar work. It's a lot of getting down in the ditch so that you can raise them up, is what it really is. And I think you can dress that up and fancy that up and degree that up and fancy talk that up in a million ways. And you can stick it on near the top of an org chart. You can do a lot of things with it, but you never get away from, you either bring influence or you don't, and a title doesn't do it. And you cannot be any value as a leader if you don't first and primarily know how to serve other people. And that keeps you humble for sure, but it's incredibly gratifying because when I get up, I want to help other people get the wins. And I love to be able to do that because we all share in that. And I love that.
I think I would do you one better, go a little farther, that good leadership is blue collar work, because I think we've both been in enough workplace environments to understand that not all leadership is good or edifying.
What?
Leadership. I know, right? No. Every place is just rainbows and sunshine and everything's just bright and sunny. When I think about the word leadership, I have some images that come to mind. I think like William Wallace. I think King Leonidas. I think Maximus Aurelius, right? And they're all people that rallied other people to their cause, right? Other people of influence. They were all serving in slightly different ways, right? And whether that's in rebellion or like for a just cause, they were all serving. And I think of the leaders that were on the opposition side to them, right? They were leaders in their own right, but leading for what reasons, what causes, and how do you know when a leader is leading from a good place or from a bad place? Is that a feeling? Is that something you're seeing? Is that, that there's no fruit, or what is that in your opinion?
That I don't know if this will answer the question, but let me tell you a story.
Oh, story time. I love story time.
Story time. Let me tell you a story that I love. This is a very simple, short story. When I was in college, I worked at CarMax went to school in Nashville, and was working at CarMax selling cars part-time, and loved it, by the way, because I love cars. And very, very, very busy place. It was brand new. They had just built it, and boy, people were just flocking in to this CarMax. And I'll never forget one of my other guys who a salesman named Bruce. Bruce was such a nice guy, and I remember the general manager of our dealership. I cannot recall his name, but I remember he was very distinguished and very smart. And every time he spoke, I just remember being impressed by the things that he would say. And it was, I didn't get to see him a lot because he was in some lofty office somewhere, I'm sure, right? Or so I suppose.
Ivory Tower?
You might say that.
Okay.
And I remember walking behind my coworker Bruce one day. He was probably 10 steps ahead of me. And he says, oh, Mr. General Manager, I don't recall his name. Oh, Mr. General Manager, do you have some time? Are you busy? Do you have some time to talk? And I remember his reply was, Bruce, I'm extremely busy, but I always have time for you. I was 22 years old. I'm now 47. I still think about that story, I bet, on a weekly basis. I don't know why, other than I saw a guy who was very smart and very busy, and everybody wanted his time all the time. And I saw him tell someone, you matter deeply to me, and I exist here to help you. And it was such this eye-opening moment for me that I really didn't get the chance to really dig into in a leadership role for really many years down the road. but I always circled back to it. And to this day, I circle back to it. I'm very busy, Bruce, but I always have time for you. He understood his purpose. He had a strong conviction and a place from which he did well. And I love that so much. And I wish I knew who that guy was. I wish I could probably go dig it up if I tried real hard. But I sure would love to reconnect with that general manager because it was so brilliant and so simple, but it was so profound to me, not just in the workplace, but in life too. Because I'm busy and we're all busy and we've all got agendas. We all got things and life is right here at us so much of the time. But perhaps the greatest piece of life comes from those moments we step away and we invest ourselves into others. And that's what I truly believe. And I believe that is the motive. Either I'm all about me and number one, you can get a lot of miles out of that. But I found in life that it's the investing into others is where you really get the most ROI.
Look at you bringing in marketing terms to a talk on leadership. Look at you.
Well,
ROI.
I was a pastor, so what are you going to do?
No, I mean, I don't think it answered the question, but I think...
there you go. You're welcome.
But I think that, I mean, there's certainly knowledge to be gleaned there. And the fact that it happened 20 plus years ago and then it's still stuck with you and been so impactful on your path, on your life that you think about it at least once a week. I'm appreciative of that general manager too. Like for that stuck with you for so long. And I guess you open the door to the life side of it. To be, how do, I guess, is it just the servant leader mentality that you take to your family, that we can take from work to other parts of our life to be leaders? Because I believe that anybody can be a leader, right? Given their history, given like where their heart is. Hopefully they use those powers for good, not for bad. But I guess what's the takeaway so that we can walk away to other areas of our life and apply it?
Yeah, well, I believe at my core that we're blessed to be a blessing, and some might say is greater to give than to receive, and that's one of the things I love that we get to do here at Rooted is we get a chance to give and to give people the gift to be free of fear and free of worry about their future. And I love the chance to do that. And there's no better posture from which to do that than one of humility and honoring others and truly treating them as someone who is worthy of respect and worthy of honor and worthy of our time and worthy of our attention. And that is who Rooted is. And I'm just grateful for the chance to sort of rally the troops continued in that direction and to be able to create the right kind, hopefully, right? The right kind of atmosphere, the right kind of vibe, the right kind of even policy and procedure that sets us up to serve people well in the ways that we feel like we're actually called to do.
There's a lot to be gleaned from that. You've obviously done a lot of studying on leadership in your various roles for the past, at least 20 years in your, pastoral background. Are there any books, podcasts, anything like that you would recommend for, if somebody's looking to grow that leadership in themselves and really put in that work? Is there any resources you'd recommend?
Just this morning we were talking and had mentioned the concept, what I think now has become a bit of a staple of a leadership book, and that is Good to Great by Jim Collins. Really, really great book. And he introduces this concept of if we're in the right seat on the bus, so to speak, and sometimes perhaps not even on the right bus. And as I think about that, I think about, the term, skill sets. That's something we talk about a lot. Like, what does it take to excel in your seat on the bus? Or what does it take to excel even being on this bus at all? What does it take? And just thinking about the concept of clarity is kind. That's something that I think I continue to learn more and more and more, that clarity is the absence of clarity brings anxiety, and it brings tension, and it brings stress, and it brings frustration, it brings fear in so many different ways. And one of the things that I think is most valuable about our whole experience in leadership is the ability to bring crystal clarity. And to the extent that we don't have it, to own that and say, I don't know. And to be confident in saying, I don't know, but it matters and let's work on it. Or I don't know, but it's a back burner issue and let's get to it a little bit later, but I'm not going to forget about it. Because if I'm a leader and it matters to you, then I need to at least address it and work through it the best we can that makes sense right now. So I think absolute crystal clarity is one of the greatest luxuries that we can bring to our teams as leaders. Maybe that answered something.
Yeah, it answered something.
You see, Kinch, middle-brained, highly creative, but also organized, all right?
Middle brain. I'm just going to look at you, and you'll tell me a story, and that'll answer my question.
Sometimes.
All right. Well, I don't know if this answers any questions, but how about Zach Gray's latest Amazon bestseller, Deep Roots? That'll answer some questions.
It'll answer a number of questions.
That's right. If you would like a copy of Zach's new Amazon best-selling book, I could probably get you an autographed copy. I might know a guy.
Or eBay.
Or
Right.
eBay.
Yep.
Or eBay. Go ahead and call the office, 815-918-4727. Let them know that you heard Mr. Mikey P and Kinch messing around on the Digging In podcast and see if that gets you somewhere. Maybe an autographed copy of Zach's new book. Until next time, keep digging in.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.